He went up there to Pennsylvania to tour the site. He wanted to see the body. Guess what? The body has already been turned over to the family, and they cremated the body.
Wait a minute. Okay, there's got to be an autopsy report. Because I've been to a lot of autopsies, man. I've been to so many autopsies.
Yeah.
I know exactly how they are there, especially when it's a criminal, right? Every little thing is documented and photographed in detail.
You would be right, but you know what the autopsy report is that they've released?
They got to have a manner of death, cause of death.
And usually there's a diagram of the body. It shows entry, exit.
Manner of death, cause of death.
This autopsy is a one-page report that's been released to the public. It says death is a result of a gunshot wound.
Where?
That's all they put. No, but they don't say where. It's the 3 words of gunshot wound or whatever. That's all they have released, and they cremated the body.
Welcome back to CF Podcast, guys. Kaya here, and we've got Paul Glasco from Legally Armed America here with us.
Good to be
Paul,
here.
glad having you here, man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And what I have here in my hand is a book called How to Make a Monster and Why No One Cares by Paul Glasco. You guys definitely got to check this one out. We will talk about this book in a second, but definitely check it out. Before we get there, let's talk about you a little bit. So, obviously, you got a pretty good YouTube channel, Legally Armed America. Love your stuff. I watch your stuff all the time.
Thank you.
And very informative stuff. Just in case there are some folks who are watching us right now, they don't know who you are. Go ahead and tell us about yourself.
Well, the channel itself it's evolved, obviously, as you guys know, the way YouTube's policies have changed. It changes the way a lot of us produce content. Probably started out making just gun reviews, and it wasn't for any particular reason. It was because I wanted to I've done video production for years. Like, I'm talking about on tape for years. So I've seen the evolution of it over the years, and it's just always been something I've enjoyed doing. So I started doing the gun reviews and things like that. But now pretty much everything that I cover is politically driven, because even though that stuff still gets throttled on YouTube, it's not completely squashed. Like, some people at least can see it. I actually like the way I do a lot of my videos. I pride myself on the fact that there's guys out there that do really good news, like Jared, Guns and Gadgets. I mean, I get a lot of my news from Jared. I don't consider myself a news channel. In fact, my videos can be a little bit longer sometimes because I like to dig into it. I like
commentary.
I
love that.
I enjoy trying to expose stuff that's BS. And that's probably the biggest thing that I enjoy. Like, when I get a hold of something, I'm like, this doesn't seem right. Yeah. And then I start digging and I find stuff like, okay. And then, of course, you go down a rabbit hole really quick. I enjoy going down those rabbit holes. I go down them. Yeah. And you find all kinds of stuff. You mentioned a minute ago, and I don't know if you'll cover this later, but the whole Trump assassination attempt, that is something that is amazing to me. The way things have disappeared, the way it's pushed out of the way. And again, we can talk about that later, but that's the kind of stuff I enjoy, because you're like, wait a minute, this doesn't seem right. But some people just let it go. And I think the problem is, I'm older, obviously. Problem is, people consume their content so quick now, they don't want to take the time to
do some investigative stuff, right?
Yeah. And I mean, with the likes of TikTok and now YouTube doing the shorts, I mean, people are consuming their media in 30 and 60-second bursts. That's just not me.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
I like to sit back and look at stuff. Y'all's videos are good because it's more long-form content. Yeah. I'm not so ADHD that I need to look at 50 different videos in the 15 minutes that I'm sitting down. I'm cool with looking at one. Yeah.
No, that is very true, and it's sad that attention span has gone down so much. Right. But so, about Legally Armed America YouTube channel that you have, when did you start it? And when you started it, what was your content like?
Actually, I started out in TV, of all things, in 2010. I'm in South Louisiana. I had a conservative political talk show that was on cable access TV down in Louisiana. Okay. 2009, 2010 or something like that. And, of course, I've always been a gun guy. I grew up in the South, so, I mean, we're we grew up. I mean, if we needed to take limbs out of a tree, we went and grabbed our 12-gauge shotgun and shot them out. We didn't climb up there and cut them. Just how we grew up. So I've always done stuff with guns, and I would include, of course, from a political standpoint, that was back when Barack Obama was president. So there was a lot of content from a gun standpoint because he was always talking about, the
control, right?
Yeah,
the gun
it was
control,
always
right.
something. So I found that when I was doing my political commentary, it was a good show. But when I would do gun content, it was very popular because I would break the 30-minute show up into segments. Mm-hmm. So when I would upload those segments, the gun videos always got a lot of mileage, a lot of traction. So I was like, you know what? I don't want my conservative talk show to become a gun show. So I created Legally Armed America at the same time, and it took off. So since then I've stopped doing the conservative because, and the other thing is, you can't really get sponsors for conservative. I had 2 attorneys who were underwriting my political talk show, but they didn't want people to know because half their clients were of the other party. So they didn't want to alienate some of their clients and staff maybe. So I ended up scuttling that show completely, and Legally Armed America, I've been doing it since then. I probably created the YouTube channel in either 2012 or 2013. So it's been a while.
Okay, and you were predominantly a gun type of channel, right?
Yeah, it's all gun content. Again, I have some old reviews on there that really suck. If you go back and look at your old videos, you're like, I can't believe I did that.
Even my personal channel, like I go
right.
back, I watch my videos because I do like police body cam shooting, breakdown commentary stuff, right? That's been what I do besides classic on my personal channel, and I'm like, I almost want to delete them.
Yeah,
that's how bad they are.
It just seems like you're like, man, I can't believe that's how I did my videos back then.
Yeah,
even the editing's not good, of my old stuff. Like, if y'all do the editing stuff, I mean, there's a rhythm, there's a timing to your videos, and my old videos didn't have any rhythm. It was like, and I left stuff in there that could have easily been cut out. Like, why did I leave that in there? But I'm mostly now. I mean, I do some reviews again. YouTube has kind of screwed that up. So my stuff is very topical in the Second Amendment world. In fact, I've kind of started to condition a lot of my viewers that, hey, I'm going to start including more politically driven stuff because let's face it, I mean, I do have an ultimate goal here, and I mean this when I say it. I don't think that we can afford, literally in the sense of the word, afford monetarily, in my pocket, my bank account, can't afford 4 more years of what we're experiencing in the country right now. And I've told my viewers, I said, I know you didn't subscribe to me as a political channel, but I'm going to have to include some. So once a week, I include something on politics.
Okay. So what do you do? Like right now it's Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump. So you got to talk about their polls or their news, stuff like that?
Actually, I do my best not to do news.
Okay.
It's like, if there's BS here, then I'm going to try to find it and talk about
policy.
why it's BS. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the perfect example is if Harris says that, well, the tip thing,
Oh yeah, the tips aren't being taxed. Oh, she doesn't want to tax the tips, but isn't that what Donald Trump said first?
Donald Trump said it first, but she also, being the vice president, you are the tiebreaker in the Senate.
Yeah.
The Senate has 100 senators, so that's an even number. If they vote 50-50, then it goes to the vice president to be the tiebreaker.
Yeah.
She has broken more ties than any vice president in history because that's how the Senate is set up right now. It's that evenly balanced. And she literally, speaking of the tip thing, she cast the deciding vote, the tiebreaker, to employ more IRS agents to go after people who were not claiming all of their tips. And then she comes out as a policy saying that, I'm going to make tips non-taxable. We're like, wait a minute, you literally cast the deciding vote on a law to crack down on tips. And now you have this policy that's just the opposite. So that's the kind of content that I like to create. Like, no, that's BS. That's, you're being political right there. And let me be very clear. Politicians in general are scumbags.
I agree with you.
I totally agree. It doesn't matter what party.
Exactly. I agree with you.
So I'm not sitting here saying that one party is perfect and the other one's. It's just that there is a worse group of people than the group of people over here. So that's why I say that.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I honestly, we at Classic Firearms, and you at Legally Armed America, me on my personal YouTube accounts, whatever, we have a responsibility. I was literally talking to Ryan just yesterday about that. We have a responsibility to do certain things, depending on what our niche is, right? At Classic Firearms, we do gun reviews. Yes, Classic Firearms also is a retailer. Okay. Of course, they're in business to sell stuff. But I literally was telling this to Ryan. I was like, we have an obligation to tell people who follow us, they trust us, the absolute honest whatever we believe, right?
Yep.
And that's exactly what you're doing, and that's what I'm doing. We believe this to be true based on training experience or other facts, other factors, and we just tell people that. Now, could we always get things right?
Right.
No, we're all human.
That's
here.
right.
But if you truly believe that's the truth, that's the right thing, you just pass that along. People can make their own judgments.
That's right.
I believe that is our duty, because we do have a following. You have a pretty good following. What's your subscribers right now? Do you have a lot of?
400-something thousand.
Yeah, you're like 500,000 people are literally saying that I like what this guy is doing.
Yeah.
I want to watch more of this. So that's not a few people. So I watch your stuff, dude. I've watched your stuff. I mean, we hung out like a couple years ago at the GOA event, and I've watched your stuff ever since then. And dude, you got a nice backdrop, cool thing, and you just get straight to the point. You talk about it. There's no beating around the bush. Freaking love your stuff.
Thank
dude.
you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, besides politics, you do gun content. Do you like to go shooting like the way we do it, or you just like to kind of do a little review? Like, how's your gun content?
Probably more like you guys.
Okay.
And again, it's probably the video nerd in me. I don't just I don't script anything, but in my head I plan everything out. And you know as well as I do, y'all have a rhythm of how you do your stuff. I'm going to do this first. I'm going to do that first. You know how to be more efficient with your time. You've done it so many times that you know what you want to do. Just something as simple as preloading all your magazines, just stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I've gotten to the point where if I do gun-related content, first of all, I have to watch what I say, where I never had to watch the words that I used before.
Yeah.
And whatever the ridiculous policy was of putting a magazine in a gun made you manufacturing the gun so you couldn't show that anymore.
How crazy was that?
That's so stupid, man.
Okay, anybody who doesn't know, at one point, we couldn't put a magazine into guns. Like, you have a rifle or a handgun, just put the magazine in. You couldn't do that. YouTube called that manufacturing, but that was quickly changed once the meeting was kind of held with the YouTube team. That was insane.
So stupid.
Yeah, so I'm sorry.
But that's a perfect example of everything in general, not just YouTube, of decision makers not having any real life experience in the topic that they're ruling on. I mean, anybody, that's why they changed their mind, because they were like, oh, that was really stupid of us.
Yeah.
But they didn't know that because they're not gun guys. So you have non-gun people making policy for gun guys. It's so stupid.
It is. Yeah. Thankfully, we have an awesome rep. I think you know him, Tim.
Yeah.
You know Tim. Tim is a good buddy of mine. We've kind of become friends over the last year and a half, whatever, that we've met. And I talk to him often. Tim is a very fair, also a gun guy. He understands. So he tries to be that buffer.
That's right.
And I think it's working.
Yeah.
To a certain degree, it's working. Yeah. So, you do some of your gun content. You got to watch what you're saying.
Yeah.
But what do? You just you go buy a gun and then you just
I actually have something I'm really, just like you, I don't get excited about guns much anymore. I don't want to sound like I'm too cool for school kind of thing. But once
you are with that shirt. You are definitely very.
Well, no, I'm talking about like how many AR-15s. You don't even know how many you've shot in your lifetime, right?
Oh, no way. Yeah,
there's no way you can even guess, right? So if somebody sends you a new AR-15, it's a little hard to get excited about it. Yeah. Wouldn't you agree?
I agree.
Well, CMMG came out with the BR4. I don't know if you guys have put your hands on it yet.
No, what is that?
It is, you're familiar with their Descent line?
I love the Descent.
Me too.
Yeah.
Well, they took the Descent receiver and they put a 16-inch barrel on it, but they put the Magpul shotgun 870 stock on it. So it doesn't have a collapsible AR-15 stock. So from here forward, it's a Descent, a 16-inch barrel Descent. From here back, you don't have a pistol grip. You have a shotgun grip. The Magpul, really overly tactical. I don't know what they call it. And that is one of the, when I saw it, I was like, okay, I want to put my hands on that. And then when I got it, I have not shot it yet. When I got it, I was like, I can't wait to take this out there.
So it's a 1913 Picatinny in the back, right?
Dude, it's incredible. It's so cool. You need to reach out to CMMG because
I would love to check that out.
This is one that I'm genuinely excited about, and I see this as being one. I've already ordered the sling I want for it because I see this gun as being one of the ones that I put behind the closet door.
You just grab it?
Oh, yeah. Because it's, again, I come from an old school. I didn't shoot an AR-15 until in the late 80s because we grew up with shotguns, bolt-action rifles, and things like that. So I grew up with a standard feeling gun with a standard old school stock. And you see, they don't need, the CMG Descent doesn't need the buffer tube going back in there. It's all controlled in the upper.
Yep.
So anyway, that's probably the coolest thing I'm looking forward to. So with that one, I'm planning that one out pretty good. Like I want to do some cool stuff with that.
Yeah.
I also want to show the kind of versatility of it as being a home defense gun also.
Yeah.
And the weirdest thing, CMMG is really good about all the various calibers that they have. And I told Mike at CMMG, I said, I want this one in a 5.56 because I don't think I own a CMMG in 5.56.
Yeah, so, dude, when I first started at Classic, we had the CMMG Descent. We had just gotten it.
Yep.
And that was one of the first 300 blackout guns that I shot.
Okay.
Suppressed. I fell in love with it.
Oh,
we did a couple of podcasts. Even we would ask each other, like among ourselves, what's your favorite gun? And I would say CMG Descent. Do you remember those days, Ryan? Yep. So like CMG Descent, I love that thing. I would say that. I remember Alex Zedra was with us. We were doing a podcast and I said that. I love that. I think the CMG guys are doing really good work, and I got to check that, whatever that thing is.
Yeah.
What was that, BR? What?
BR4.
BR4.
They actually call it BR, and I guess it fits me perfectly, for boomer.
Oh,
I'm not a boomer, but that's what it's designed for, the old school guys. I'm like, man, I feel like a boomer now. That's perfect for me. I literally got excited about it.
That's fun. I look forward to checking that content out.
Yeah, for sure.
So I want to talk about this.
Okay.
All right. So we all know. I'm going to go ahead and give this, anybody who's listening, not watching, quotations right here, mass shooting.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Everything is nowadays titled as mass shooting.
Yeah.
Like there's two guys go at it and there's a crowd, but the guy is just shooting at that guy, and then that's a mass shooting.
Yep.
There's just, I don't know, they're naming it differently nowadays. But there is a fact that there's been a few school shootings in this country or whatever, some legitimate, like guys, crazy dudes, right? Going in there and just shooting at people. And you wrote a book called How to Make a Monster and Why No One Cares. Number one, before we talk about this, how do people find this book?
I actually go to howtomakeamonster.com. I made it easy.
Very, very easy. Yep. That's it, guys. That's the website. You go for it. Now, tell me why you wrote this book and give us a little summary without completely spoiling it. Well,
I'm a detail nerd. I just always have been. I like information and I like explaining stuff to people. If you'll remember the Parkland shooting down in Florida, what was that, 2019 maybe? I forget exactly when that was.
Yeah.
So when that happened, you usually see and I'm going to not do the fingers quote because I feel like I have to do it every time. So I'm just going to say now, I mean this when I say mass shooting because I don't call them mass shootings. I call them rampage killings or whatever, I don't fall into the narrative of the mass shooting. I mean, I think rampage killing is a lot more accurate. If you read the book, you would know why I say that. But whenever that happened down in Parkland, I remember thinking, because I covered it on my channel, and I remember thinking, every time one of these happens, you always hear the same thing. He was on the FBI's list. The FBI knew who he was. Or it's something silly like the neighbors said they never saw this in him. And then the school, their friends at school would be like, oh, yeah, I mean, we always said if there's going to be a mass shooter, it's going to be him. So you always heard the same stuff. So I was like, we start to see this trend. There's got to be, and to be clear, I'm going to say this. The anti-gun movement out there, all these groups out there, the Giffords, the Bloomberg groups and all that, I actually talk a little bit about how much money they make off of that in my book also. But it's such an enterprise for them, such a money-making thing for them. They hijack the term gun safety. Well, you and I do more gun safety in our videos by telling somebody the proper way to manage a gun, right?
Yep.
I mean, I don't do this because that's not safe or whatever. You're always checking to make sure it's unloaded. They say their version of gun safety is let's ban AR-15s. They consider that safety. Well, they hijacked the term, and we let them do that. Let's be honest. I mean, we did. So anyways, looking at these things, I was like, all right, nobody is really doing the research to see what the commonalities are, what the common denominators are of every single one of these shootings, but we hear the same thing every time there is one. So I started digging into them. I started digging into their backgrounds. I started digging into their medical records, dig into their school history, their criminal history, if there is one, things like that. And I did this. It was like a 30,000 foot view research to do a video for my YouTube channel at the time, 10, 15-minute video. Maybe it's longer than that. But when I did that video, I was like, man, there's a lot here that I either can't cover, I don't have time to research it, or I don't want to include that in my video, but there's a bunch here, and I never thought about writing a book. So on the side, while I'm still doing all my other videos, I'm doing the research just because I'm curious. Then I realized I'm researching. I know so much about this now that nobody's talking about. I need to write a book. Well, I will tell you, and I don't mind spoiling it because it's common knowledge.
Yeah.
There's 3 commonalities, and I have one Venn diagram in this whole book. It's one picture, and it shows the overlap. Now, to be clear to y'all's viewers, I'm not saying each one of these, and I'm not saying all 3 of these make the next school shooter. What I'm saying is all the school shooters do have these commonalities, right? Not everybody is going to be a school shooter, but all the school shooters do fit into this one box. And that is, first of all, they come from a broken home. The statistics don't lie. If you look at, I think it's 80 or 90% of people in prison come from a fatherless home. So I show all those statistics that, okay, it starts with a bad home. And it's like a domino effect. So when you start from a bad home, and again, that doesn't mean everybody without a dad out there is going to be the next school shooter. To be clear, I feel like I have to say that disclaimer because some people get mad. Oh, I grew up without a dad, and I'm CEO of a company.
And you know what? That is true. But some people with a dad, too, that still doesn't mean, just because your dad physically is there, doesn't mean you have that dad support.
That's exactly right. And again, the statistics don't lie. This is not my opinion. In fact, there's 254 footnotes in this book, so it's researched, and you can go look at every single thing that I cite in here.
Yeah.
So a lot of times what you see is a lot of these fatherless homes, they also result in a child being bullied at school and over-medicated. And again, that's going down the rabbit hole. When I say over-medicated, I mean over-medicated, not on medication. I mean over-medicated. You're giving, I spell out what a black box warning is in the book too. The FDA has what's called a black box warning. That's a warning that they have to put on the side of a drug if it has adverse effects that are really negative effects. And those effects in most cases, and in fact every case for the psychotropic drugs that they give to kids for anxiety, ADHD, depression, things like that, they all have the same black box warning: may cause mania, may cause higher rates of anxiety. They're already taking the medicine for anxiety, and it's telling them they might have, you may experience higher rates of anxiety, and it may create suicidal or homicidal tendencies. So why would we give a 6-year-old child those drugs whenever they're just hyper? You know what I mean? It's stupid stuff like that. And there's reasons, I was talking to Ryan about it earlier, there's reasons why we started seeing, if you put charts together side by side of when we started over-medicating our children, it's exactly in correlation with the implementation of the No Child Left Behind policy. And that was a Republican president, Bush, that put that in place. They put this system in place to have a test at the end of the year that the kids have to take. So instead of teaching them English, math, history, American history, or civics, the teachers at the beginning of the year, they know what the answers are going to be on the test at the end of the year. So they don't give two rips about, what the square root of whatever is. They know that the answer of such and such is on this test, so they spend the year teaching that. Now, I'm simplifying it because obviously they teach other things, but it's not the same curriculum that I had as a young person, right? I learned stuff. I learned about our federal government and all that, in civics and all. They don't teach that anymore because they're teaching to a test. Well, what was happening was the federal government put out big sums of incentive money for the schools and the districts that higher performed on those test results. Well, what does that mean? That means that the school that does really good gets a lot of money from the federal government. They get new gym floor. They do all kinds of stuff to incentivize them. Yeah, you did good. Your kids did good on their grades. What do you think happens to the bad performing schools? They either don't get any money. Some of them, they actually closed down because they were so bad. So what happens in that case, you got teachers. I mean, I'm not saying it's okay that teachers were corrupting the system. I'm saying I understand why they did it, because if I'm a school teacher and my take-home pay, which means food on the table, is directly tied to the results of my children in school, what am I going to do? I'm going to do everything I can to make as many of those kids pass this test at the end of the year that I know the results. I know what the answers are going to be. I'm going to do my best all year long to make sure every single kid does better, because guess what? If they do good, next year I can buy ribeyes instead of a round steak for my family at home. I can feed my family better. I can drive a nicer car, live in a nicer home. Well, what these teachers started doing, and again, it's a survival thing. It's not, again, I'm not condoning it. I'm saying it's wrong that they did this, but I understand it. They started, they found that, if you want to call it a loophole, that if they declared a child ADHD, that was considered a disability in the school system throughout the country. Well, once you create that disability in that child, you label him as a disability, then you get more time to teach the kid. You have tutors available to teach that kid. On top of that, think of it this way. I don't know if you're a parent. I'm an older parent. I didn't have a child when I was young. Most parents of, elementary school kids, they're in their 20s. So at that point in your life, you haven't had a lot of life experiences. So when a 50-year-old teacher tells you that your child is ADHD, you need to take him to the doctor. He needs to get medication to control his hyperness so that I can teach him. They take him to the doctor, and the doctors are to the point now where there's doctors who don't have the qualifications to actually prescribe. They have the legal means of prescribing this medication, but they're not psychiatrists or psychologists. They don't know. They don't have the background to diagnose a child, to give them that diagnosis and to give them that medication. But since they can do it, they were all doing it. And of course, they were making money at it too. So we created this massive system of teachers who had zero qualifications to tell you that your child needs medicine and sends you to a doctor, get medicine. And now you have this docile child in school. Maybe he focuses a little bit more. I mean, I get that if the kid's not sidetracked or whatever. But what we're creating is a dependency on that drug, because you can't just pull these children off these drugs.
And also, if you make a kid believe that there is something wrong with you, dude, this is the most powerful thing that we have, right? If you give me a medication, like everybody knows what a placebo is, right? So if you tell me, hey, there's something wrong with me, but if you take this, you're going to be better. Even by the effect of a placebo, generally speaking, people feel different, right? So if you
I got to give you a fist bump on that, and I'll tell you why in a minute. You're tapping into something that nobody else has ever said to me that's in the book. I'm amazed that you're saying this, because it's like you could have written a chapter in here. So keep saying what you're saying.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, dude. Because if you make even if there's nothing wrong with the kid, because when I was a kid, I promise you, all me and my friends would be like, hey, what's up? And we throw a little bag at each other as the teacher's talking. Teacher's like, Kaya, what the heck? I'm like, oh, sorry. Everybody did that. That's what kids do. If you come at me and tell me, hey, what you're doing is not normal because there's something wrong with you, hey, take this pill, I'd be like, oh, I guess there's something wrong with me.
That's right.
Bro, that is like horrible.
It's mind effing these children to a certain degree. And to your point saying that, I'm so proud of you for saying that, because nobody that I talk to has ever brought that point up, and I do talk about it in here. You are creating a sense of dependency on that child, that they are defective and that they can't function normally without the thing that they need, which, I need my medicine. So now they're totally dependent on something else, and they truly believe something is wrong with them. So you've just created a person that has a sense of dependency, and they're open to any other thing, like, I need my medicine. I can't do the right thing without my medication. What's that open them up to also? Later on in life, anytime somebody says you need this medication, take it. And they just take it. You're creating a sense of...
And if you don't take it, like, even though there's nothing wrong with you, if you don't take it, now you are conditioned to say, I haven't taken my medication, therefore the way I'm acting is normal. Because we've all heard this too. You know what? I have ADHD, okay? This is how I'm supposed to be.
It becomes an excuse. It's a crutch to do something wrong because, I didn't take my medicine today.
So it's normal. So you need to understand that this is how I am if I don't take my medicine.
Yes, that's right. So it creates an acceptance to where we're supposed to now accept bad behavior or criminal behavior in some cases. People have used that as defense in court before, that I mean, I wasn't on my medicine. So I mean, they have literally used that crutch in those instances. So anyway, it's a super deep rabbit hole that you can go down. But again, I back it all up with facts. None of this is supposition on my part. This is all backed up.
Scientific studies.
Everything. Yeah. Look, I do not have a medical background. There is a book that is, if you want to call it the encyclopedia of the psychology world, it's the DSM-5 book. And it's for mental disorders, and it describes, it is the encyclopedia. I mean, if you are in the mental industry, you know what this book is. It's a big purple book, and it's that thick. My pages are all torn up because I have been through this thing from front to back so many times, reading up on this stuff. I have researched. I can confidently say I can probably, you could test me on that DSM-5 book, and I probably can do better on the test than most of the people who have a curriculum in that field.
Wow.
Because I knew that that's not my field. I knew I had to really read this thing because I didn't have a background in any of that. And it's so obvious. I mean, I even got books on the medications and all that, reading about the medications, what chemicals were making these medications, what are the side effects of these medications. I would read case studies of the medicine and the placebo and what happened at those instances. One perfect example that I think I cite in the book was there was one particular study that was done. I don't know if it was done in the United States because the United States doesn't want to mess with the pharmaceutical companies. They make so much money.
Yep.
Most of the really good studies are from outside the United States. But anyway, this study, I don't remember the exact amount of people who were involved in this study, but it was adults. And they took people, they looked for people in the questionnaire who had never experienced suicidal tendencies or homicidal tendencies, anxiety. Like, I proudly would say somebody like me, like I'd be a perfect person. I've never had those, I've never experienced those things. So they sought out those people and they said, all right, we want to do, some good tests on this, A/B test type thing. So the ones that they gave the actual drug to, one of them within 2 weeks started experiencing suicidal tendencies and had never had them in their life. And then they started seeing a cascading effect of other ones having really weird mood issues, and they stopped the study. They were like, we've seen enough. I mean, we're
what drug was that?
People. Pardon me?
What drug?
It was one of the psychotropic drugs, like that you would take, whether it's, a Xanax or a Valium or something like that. It was an anxiety type drug. So, again, to be clear, not everybody has the same side effects when they take the same drug. That's I never imply that makes you a killer.
Of course, yeah.
But the problem that you have is these drugs, the way they get into your system, and I don't want to use too many big words, but let's just say the way they spread throughout your system and they become part of your tissue and all that kind of stuff, you can't stop them cold turkey. Like, if somebody stops drinking or cold turkey or stops smoking,
it changes their hormone levels, dude.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And you notice changes in their mood. All these things. It's the same concept when you get off of these. What happens is on almost all SSRIs, which by the way I do describe in a very dumbed down way, the serotonin uptake type medicines. They're called SSRIs.
Yeah.
And they block dopamine and stuff like that in your brain, and that's how they function. I do dummy it down so people can go, okay, now I get that. Well, these drugs, when you stop taking them, because they've been in your system for so long, they actually make the side effects 10 times worse.
Because you have that low, right?
Yeah.
Because if this is your baseline, on the medication, you're up high a little bit, mood, all that stuff. When you stop taking it, you don't go back to baseline.
That's right.
You just dip down.
And your body's expecting you to take those drugs because you've been taking them for so long, and you're not giving your body what it's looking for. So it does create a void there. And some of at least one or two of the killers in here, and I get them confused because I haven't looked at each one specifically in so long, but it might have been the Virginia Tech shooter that had stopped taking his medication. And they say that the side effects are worse than if you never had gotten on it to begin with. So if you try to quit one of these drugs cold turkey, if you compare that to a person who has the same symptoms as you that never took the medication, you're way worse off.
Way worse, yeah.
Than if you just never touched them.
Yeah, so that makes perfect sense, right? So these shooters, right? These, what is that? What did you call it?
Rampage killers.
Rampage killers, right? Commonly, did they have mental health disorders that was on paper? Were they on medication? What would you say?
Yes. All of them.
All of them?
They were the different types of broken homes that they came from. In some cases were just fatherless homes. Some cases they were abused mentally, sexually, whatever. There was a level of abuse in the home. So then they get medicated, and a lot of times at an early age. You would be shocked to know that children under 5 years of age get some of these psychotropic drugs.
Oh, God.
It's just stupid.
How about let a kid be a kid?
Hello. Yeah. And just a quick point I want to make that I also describe in the book. Even though you probably stopped growing at 19, 20, 21, right? You're physically, you stop growing. Your brain continues to get developed, and I use the term rewired or wired. Your brain grows until you're 26 years old. That's the average time when a brain fully matures. A brain doesn't just fully mature in growth. It's maturing in the way you process things, the way you do things, personality, all that kind of stuff. You're putting chemicals in your body 15 and 20 years before your brain. It hasn't even been developing for 5 or 6 years when you're giving a kid that kind of drug at an early age.
So in a way, the society, and this is a good rabbit hole to go in, and I like this topic a lot, there is a socially accepted way to behave. Mm-hmm. And again, there are morally accepted stuff, which we, for the most part, society agrees. You and I probably have very similar moral compass. Mm-hmm. Criminality, like the legal stuff, of course, nobody condones that. But besides that, there is this socially accepted way of behaving. And if you don't, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
How is that? Like, as I said, unless that is really morally outside or criminally you're doing something.
Yeah.
So what if a kid is acting belligerent in a certain way compared to 5 other kids who are more tamed?
That's right.
Like, that's just how that kid's personality is.
That's right.
Does that really mean something wrong with that kid just because the kid is not behaving the way that 3 other kids are? As long as that kid morally is not just doing really horrible things or criminally, that kid, that is that kid.
And that's a good point you bring up. One of the things that I always look at is the fact that if your go-to, especially with a child at an early age, 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old child, oh, I'm sad. Oh, you're going through puberty.
Oh, yeah.
Who didn't have mood swings and stuff like that when they were 14, 15, 16 years old and middle school, high school? Those years can be difficult.
Of course, yeah.
So now you're going to rewire my brain because I'm experiencing puberty.
Or I just want to change my gender.
Right, exactly.
I just want to be something else. Yeah,
it's insane that you do that. So I think that to make your point, the socially acceptable thing, I think that your go-to can't be medication. If there are other options that might work equally. What if Johnny is really hyper? I was really hyper growing up. I still am because I'm not medicated, right?
That's how Paul is.
Yes, that's me. And did I get in trouble for it? Yeah, I did early on, but
that's how you learn.
I adapted, I figured out, I don't want to get in trouble anymore. Yeah. But if you sit here and say medicate that child instead of what if you could have put me, what if the reason why, and this is kind of partially true for me, what if it was a topic like chemistry that I'm just not interested in?
Wow.
I don't like chemistry. I make bad grades in chemistry because I suck at it. I'm not interested. I'd literally read the same page 4 times in a row and haven't retained one word. I'll go back and read the same page and I'm like, I don't remember reading this, and I know this is the 4th time I'm reading it. It's because I'm not interested in it. But if you give me a book on guns or something like it, something mechanical or whatever, I'll probably smoke everybody in the class as far as testing goes. You need to find these kids. We can't put them all in the same box and say they're all the same. We pride ourselves as a society that, you can be different. You can do whatever you want. But you funnel them all into the same box when you're raising them.
There is that socially accepted lane that they're trying to put everybody in.
That's right.
I really think this is a great conversation, man. People ought to wake up on this one. Now, we're not disputing the fact there are actually mentally disturbed kids
100%.
out there. 100% they're out there. They need help.
Yes.
We're not medical professionals.
Yes.
They need to go to a proper medical
100%.
professional to get their thing, not a teacher.
Right. And not me.
Yeah, exactly. Just somebody who's absolutely proper, and they get the proper care.
That's correct.
And we're not obviously condoning any criminal behavior. That's obviously not, right?
That's right.
But just because a person is different than you, doesn't mean that kid, there's something wrong with that kid.
That's right.
That's
right.
the problem. That I think in the society we try to label people like on everything, and we could just go down this rabbit hole on everything. Like you could be labeled as racist, sexist, homophobic for just saying something, just one thing.
That's right.
Okay, so and the kid just acting in a certain way immediately makes that kid wrong, and there's something wrong with that person. I think we should all embrace that we could all be different.
Yeah.
Okay, as long as we, as I said, those crazy, as a society in general, from left, right, doesn't matter.
That's right.
Accepted moral lane, as long as we're kind of in that.
That's right.
And criminally, we're not in
right.
the criminal realm. I think we could all just be different and embrace each other. Yeah, dude, that's a really good point. So it was just mass shooters or whatever, the rampage shooters, whatever they label them. Common thing, what you're saying is the home life, and they have mental health, like documented mental health issues.
Not necessarily documented, just recognized. But that's not the third thing. It's the broken home.
Okay.
It's being bullied in school. And I'm not saying bullying a kid makes you a mass shooter or a rampage killer.
Yeah.
But there's documented proof that in some ways, I think it was one of the school shootings that I cover in the book. The principal was caught lying. Teachers witnessed the bullying in school and turned the other way. And if you read the writings of a lot of these kids, they address the fact that they were bullied. Again, bullying's a part of school. We've all been bullied in some way or another. As a little kid, the big kids might have picked on you or whatever. But some of these kids were, like, they were labeled in the school as, that's the weird kid. And everybody would pile in on them.
They would do that. Yeah, I've seen it
And I'm going to say this, and it's going to piss off some of your viewers, but teachers are not the smartest people in the world. I'm not saying they're the dumbest people in the world. What I'm saying is, as a group, no one has ever said, if we take a profession, who do you think the smartest people in that profession are? No one has ever said teachers.
Yeah.
They're educators, and they pass on information to the children. A lot of these teachers, and there's proof of this, they did not fit in school. They might have been the bullied. So now when they see the bullying in school, now all the cool kids in the school that are bullying this kid, well, the teacher's now one of the cool kids, because if they take the side of the kid who's being bullied, then they're not cool again. Oh, that's Miss So-and-so. She's not cool because she got me in trouble because I bullied so-and-so. So a lot of these teachers, because they still want to fit in with the cool crowd, they're looking the other way because, well, I don't want the seniors in the school love me. And if I don't take their side when they're picking on little Johnny over here, then I'm not cool anymore. They're not going to think I'm cool. Let's face it, everybody has egos. And their ego is getting stroked when, oh, that's Miss So-and-so. She's so cool. She's the coolest teacher I have. So some of these teachers do look the other way. You'll never get them to answer you honestly. But when you look at studies, they usually had kind of crappy experiences in high school.
Interesting. Very interesting point. Now, speaking of bullies, like the Donald Trump shooting, the attempted assassination, let's just call it, obviously Secret Service thing.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it right
Whole
now.
different story.
But that kid, the shooter, he was reported to be bullied like crazy in school.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts about that kid, and now tie that into this, let's jump into the Trump assassination attempt thing?
Let me just say this. I do a lot of work on my channel, and I'm not trying to get people to go look at my channel, but I'm telling you, I do a lot of work separating, and this is what started me doing it.
And they should, Legally Armed America, they should check out your channel, man.
Well, I hope they do, but it's not a sales pitch. I have taken, you may be aware of it, I'm not sure how much you dig into it, but the Gun Violence Archive is supposedly a source to go get shooting-related statistics and information. All the major networks cite it, all the gun control groups cite it, but it's a fictitious website. Well, it's a real website, but it produces fictitious information. And I started noticing this over the last couple of years. If you go to reports, in my videos, I show people how to get there because I want them to validate what I'm saying. If you go click on reports, there's one that says mass shooting. Click on that one. it will bring up every single incident that they're classifying as a mass shooting. Now, to be clear, the Gun Violence Archive created their own definition of a mass shooting.
Okay, what is that?
It's when 4 or more people are shot or killed. So they just pluck the number. Like Kaya could make his own definition tomorrow, say, I want it to be 5 people.
4 or more people?
Are shot or killed. So
and there's mass shootings in Chicago every day?
Every hour probably over there. So I started breaking the numbers out. And this is something that I do hope your viewers look at, because this gives us the argument to combat the other side when we get hit with these stupid coined phrases from the anti-gun group. I created a system called the motive classification method. You being law enforcement, you will understand exactly what I'm talking about. If we have a database and we call 60 shootings, and I'm using that because that's about the average number of mass shootings that the Gun Violence Archive claims that we have every single month. If we take 60 shootings and we put them all into the same bucket and say, just because, the only reason why we're putting them there is because 4 or more people were shot or killed. We don't care the conditions. We don't care where, when, how, or anything like that. We have a number. Boom, 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 boom. Donald Trump's shooting is considered a mass shooting because 4 or more people were shot. Yeah. Okay? I took the motive, talking about your law enforcement background. All right, if you ask any law enforcement officer out there, they walk up on a shooting scene. If they see this guy standing over here and he's got a bag of dope on the ground and a gun with shell casings around him, and that guy over there has a wad of cash on the ground, shell casings around him, both guys are dead, 2 other people got shot, you're not going to call that a mass shooting, because you know the reason why they got there and the reason why those 2 guys were shot had nothing to do with what's in this book. He was not...
For me, mass shooting is like, if I'm going to define it, right, or if you tell me mass shooting, what comes to my mind is, especially as a former law enforcement, anybody with a gun goes into a crowd randomly, absolutely no association, just randomly shooting at people to inflict harm, right? And even if he knew the people, okay, whether he knows it or doesn't know it, he just goes in and just starts popping them, right? When you talk about a drug deal gone bad, which I've seen a lot of those, right? Gang members, they rivals see each other. At gas stations, we have mass shootings all the time. They see each other in a car, pop, 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 start firing. Multiple people are shot. That's not a mass shooting.
No,
that is, even if 10 people die there, that's gang-related shooting.
Absolutely.
That is some other criminal activity that's going on, and it went bad. Mass shooting is, for me, random. The person goes in and just starts blasting people randomly, whether they know them or not. What do you think?
You're using too much common sense, because those are literally the words that I use when I describe my motive classification method. I'm like, I call them rampage attacks whenever that type of person that you're describing is, usually he meets all the characteristics that I define in the book, but he maybe knows some of the people. In other words, if it's a school that he's going to, well, of course he's going to know some people. But it's not a crime of passion, so to speak, where domestic, when you see a domestic shooting, and they include domestic shootings with mass shootings every month, I break those out. So when the dad shoots everybody in his family and then commits suicide, rampage killing, or mass shooting, like, no, that's not the same. That's not like the guy that is going into the church and he may or may not know people in there, but he wants to amass the biggest body count that he can. That's all he cares about.
Exactly.
And they usually expect to die. Like they usually take their own lives.
That's right.
Or they go down suicide by cop. Your gangbangers aren't doing that. How many times have you seen a mass shooting in Washington, D.C., where they say, if anyone in the community has any information about this shooting, please contact us. We have no suspects in custody. Bull crap. That's not a mass shooting. That's guys that shot each other in their whole butt. That doesn't happen in a rampage killing.
Dude, if that's mass shooting, I dealt with a few mass shootings myself. None of them were.
Right.
I mean, I had a
That's
case,
right.
I remember a while back. I don't know, Halloween, what year that was. This gangbanger, 3 of his buddies going to a nightclub. Across the dance floor, he sees rival gang members. He gets his gun out. He starts firing into those other gang members. He killed 2 of his buddies, back of the head, because he's just firing randomly
Yeah.
and shoot another guy. So 3 people dead.
Right.
And then like 3 other people were shot.
Right.
Now, that was not a mass shooting.
Right.
That was one gang member, 3 guys. He saw a rival gang, and they don't like each other. They
That's
always
right.
shoot at each other, so they just shot at each other again.
Right.
In a crowded area.
That's right.
3 people died and 3 people got shot. So, dude, they can name these things all day long,
Yep.
but like that. But that's just talking point for them. So going back to Trump's deal, do you think? What do you think about that? Do you think very quickly? I guess. Do you think that is a one lone gunman? Was there another shooter? Kind of a lot of people are talking about,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Or was this besides lone gunman, just that kid kind of arranged this and kind of did himself? Was it really a gross negligent that makes it look like, holy crap, there could be an inside job?
Yeah.
Like all that. So what are your thoughts?
I've done a ton of research and a ton of videos on this topic, and I feel more inclined to do the videos on it because the media is so intent on trying to make the story disappear. We don't have all the answers. We don't have the right answers. Personally, I don't understand how the FBI and the Secret Service can go on record in front of Congress under oath, tell us one thing emphatically that's what happened, and then 2 weeks later come out with additional information. I was like, wait a minute, you knew that information when you lied under oath. I know you did. Like, they examined the body within minutes after the boy was shot. At first, they kept saying 9 shots, 9 shots, 9 shots. Well, you and I have heard so many gunshots over the years. We know when we hear a gunshot that it's a gunshot. It's not a book closing. It's not somebody dropping a board on the ground. It's a gunshot. There's clearly 10. They're on oath, under oath, saying 9 shots. There is 10 shots that were fired. Well, guess what? Yesterday, I think I saw a news report that they're acknowledging the 10th round now. I'm like, we knew that.
8 shots was from the shooter. And
Supposedly, allegedly.
Okay. 1 is from the counter sniper with the 308. And then where's the 10th?
If you go back and listen to the audio, the best audio to really be able to decipher those gunshots, because location of where the camera was when it was shooting the video is going to give you that different report sound, right? There was a guy, Mike, I think is his name. I've used and cited his video in my videos. He's in the middle, like the AGR building is over here and Trump is here. He's in between them. Like, he's literally in between them. Shots flew over his head. When he's videoing with his phone, you hear the first 3 shots that are measured, bang, bang,
trying to hit Trump
bang.
right there, yeah.
Then you hear the rapid fire, pop, 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 pop. Then you hear 1 immediately after that.
Which was the counter sniper.
No, they claim that 9th shot that came immediately after that 5-round burst, they never counted that one. The counter sniper one that they always have said was the kill shot was the last one. There's a delay. There's like a 8 to 10 seconds delay. Then you hear pop. They've acknowledged
I didn't hear
that late one. Well, they've acknowledged the late one. They're not acknowledging number 9. If you're counting them in the order that they come, they did not acknowledge number 9. They have always said number 10, which is the delay, and then a pop, and you can tell it's suppressed. You can hear it and tell. They've always acknowledged that later shot. That's whenever the guy got a good shot and boom, took him out. They never would talk about number 9. I saw a report now where they've acknowledged that, and I even saw a report last night that somebody is saying that number 9 did hit Crooks, but it didn't stop him. Like, he was regrouping. And then number 10 came. That's why there was that delay.
Number 9 came from the same counter sniper then?
Not the same guy. It came from, they're saying, a different location. Again, but this is the crazy thing. This is why we're asking questions, and this is why I'm pissed off about it. I hope I can say that on your channel.
Yeah,
because my congressman, who was a really good congressman, Clay Higgins, I know him personally. He is a good man. He went up there to Pennsylvania to tour the site. He wanted to see the body. Guess what? The body has already been turned over to the family, and they cremated the body.
Wait a minute. Okay, there's got to be an autopsy report. Because I've been to a lot of autopsies, man. I've been to so many autopsies.
Yeah.
I know exactly how they are there, especially when it's a criminal, right? Every little thing is documented and photographed in detail.
You would be right. But you know what the autopsy report is that they've released?
They got to have a manner of death, cause of death.
And usually there's a diagram of the body. It shows entry, exit.
Manner of death, cause of death.
This autopsy is a 1-page report that's been released to the public. It says death as a result of a gunshot wound.
Where?
That's all they put. No, but they don't say where.
Oh,
it's the 3 words of gunshot wound or whatever. That's all they have released, and they cremated the body. So if you don't want there to be conspiracies, then don't create that cloud of doubt.
I don't care if you cremate the body, because here's my thing. Because I know how this criminal investigations go.
How it works, yep.
I don't care if you cremate the body. I get that body first. I do my full-blown investigation on that body. There's detailed photos on scene.
That's right. Some of them video the autopsies now.
Okay, yeah, great, right? On scene, crime scene investigations, do the whole sketch, 3D, everything. It's a major case. And then that thing gets to the morgue, right?
Right.
It's taken to that body. And there's a further investigation there by the medical examiner and the coroner's there and whoever is handling it criminally, which would be coroner and the federal or local, whoever they're doing.
Right.
There will be detailed photographs pre-autopsy and during autopsy.
Yep.
Okay? And every little thing is documented very, very in-depth and detailed.
Correct.
Especially a case like that. So you cremate that body after, I don't care.
That's right.
It doesn't matter because I've already gotten every pertinent information I need to. And there's a lot of samples collected from that body too.
That's right.
A lot of it. So if they just simply said, oh, gunshot wound. Normally there's also a gunshot wound to wear as well, right? And that I've seen that report a lot. That's very detailed report. Someone has that report. Yeah. They have to. All those photographs are uploaded to the database. No, they're out there.
They've submitted FOIA requests, and they get the 1-page document back that says death caused by a gunshot wound.
I'm going to say right now, that is bullshit.
Yes.
You can't do that. There's got to be more. They're not releasing it because I understand it's a highly sensitive thing, but that's how people start creating conspiracies, man.
If you don't give people the information, not that they need, the information that gives them the answers, whether it's what they're looking for, it doesn't have to be the answer they want you to give them. Just give them an answer, and if you show them the proof of that and they go, well, that's not what I thought it was, but okay, I get it now.
I'm super interested once the FBI is done with the investigation, if that FOIA request.
You'll never see those files. You'll never see them.
Someone's got to fight for them.
Congressman Higgins, I saw, and I probably have it. What I'll do is a couple of these things that we're talking about, I'll send you links if y'all need to put it in y'all's description of the video, because I don't want your folks to think I'm some nutty guy that's just making this stuff up. This is happening as we literally are sitting here talking. This conversation is being had by my congressman, who posted that his own post on social media says, I went there, I toured the site, and then I asked to see the body. This was the first time the public was told the body doesn't exist anymore. Our congressman had to discover that.
Wow. That is, that's interesting. That's very, very interesting. I'm curious to see what's going to come out from this investigation. Yeah. I'm one of those guys, dude. I just wait.
Yeah.
I patiently wait. Let's see what's going to happen. What do you think is going to happen with this election? Your thoughts?
I think there will, and I'm not wishing this, to be clear.
No, not wishing. Just
YouTube. I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
I'm not inciting anything. I'm not saying what I wish or hope for. I believe there will be violence after this election. I'm not talking about a civil war. I'm not implying that. People are throwing that around.
Unrest.
Because this is why. First of all, I'm not saying the election was technically stolen from Trump, but there's confirmed ballot harvesting. There's confirmed things that people voted who were dead. I mean, all that's common knowledge. That's
facts. Let me ask you a question. Do you think that moved the needle?
I think it can move the needle. The reason that's why I won't say emphatically Biden beat Trump. I don't believe Biden beat Trump. I don't have the proof to prove that.
It's just your personal belief.
Yes, me personally, because I've seen enough of the corruption that's come out afterwards that they acknowledge after the recount and all that. There's a lot of polling stations that things were not right. I mean, look, let's face it. When I first started, I'm 56 years old. When I first started voting, it was practically everybody had paper ballots.
Yeah.
We knew who the president was by 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. The morning after election.
Yep.
Now we have computers doing it, and we have to wait a week.
And they could be easily hacked and manipulated?
Yes, absolutely. So
for any party, by the way.
But the proof is out there. So just be clear. It's not me saying this. I'm not supposing it. But last week or the week before, this is pretty eye-opening to me. A lot of the attorneys generals, what the proper term, are going to these state registrars, and I'm going to get some of these wording right because it's not in my wheelhouse necessarily, but they're purging the rolls of either dead people, unregistered people, for whatever reason, they're purging their voter rolls. This was super eye-opening to me. One state, and I'll have to find who it is. I don't remember who it is. I think it's in the Northeast. They purged 200 and something thousand records from their system, right? 200,000 of those were Democrat voters that they purged. 1,000 was Republican voters.
Wow.
Shouldn't that be about 50-50?
That's
if your
insane.
state is really close, like the big cities have the higher blue populations and you're outside. But usually if you look at, registration in states, they're pretty 40-something
That's true.
is what they are. So if you're purging all of the rolls, you shouldn't have 200-something thousand of one party and 1,000 of another. That tells me that why were all those left in there? These were getting purged all along, the thousands. That's why you don't have many of them.
Yeah.
You've been pulling them out of the system.
Yeah, I just hope whatever happens, there isn't any unrest.
Yeah.
Because we're better than that. Let's just say that. And I understand some people won't be happy with this result, whatever
Right.
it is, whatever party you're in. And honestly, it's just I hope that we are able to keep our sanity. Because I'm pretty sad what's happening in this country right now. But that's what I can hope
to finish
for.
answering that question, I believe that if Trump loses again, there are going to be people on, I'll say it, my side. Again, I'm not saying I'm far right or whatever. Actually, I don't have a problem being called far right. It doesn't bother me. The name calling doesn't bother me. Call me whatever you want. I'm far right. It doesn't matter. But I think there are people who are more fed up than I am that don't have anything to lose, that will do stupid and silly stuff.
And if you are that person, just don't.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Because you're right, we are better than that.
Yeah.
But that's also, again, along those lines, if Trump loses, I think a lot of the voting public will lose any confidence they ever had in the voting process, and a Republican will never win the presidency again. I truly believe in my heart that if Kamala Harris wins, you will never see another Republican president, because most of those guys are going to say, I'm not voting anymore. I mean, I know this is rigged. Yeah. They're going to say they're going to say I know it's rigged and all that kind of stuff, and they're going to say I'm not doing it. If the other side loses, it's acceptable, and you guys have seen this in the news, and I'm not trying to make this political. If they are accepted to riot,
I see.
They're allowed to riot.
It's okay to.
So there's not going to be a lot of pushback. Oh, they're expressing their First Amendment rights as they burn the police station down, right?
Yeah,
and we saw it in Minnesota with the George Floyd riots.
So in Seattle,
they allowed them to do that because there's a few that are violent, but mostly it's peaceful. That's what I worry about. I think those people, there's a lot of money behind that side, and if they lose. Plus Trump, they hate him so much. There's so much hate involved in this election that if Trump loses, I think it's going to be bad.
Yeah.
Or if he wins, I mean.
Either way, right?
Yeah.
Either way, it's going to be.
Yeah.
I just hope and pray that the United States continues forward as this really strong and well-respected on the world stage country, no matter who's running it. And hopefully there's no violence of any kind. We are better than that.
Right.
And that's it. Paul, man, I appreciate you.
Thank you, man.
This was a great conversation.
Thanks for having me, man.
And guys, check out Paul Glasco, Legally Armed America on YouTube, and also his book, How to Make a Monster and Why No One Cares.